Good morning and welcome to today's meeting on the Assembly Committee for Government Affairs for the 2025 legislative session. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Assembly members Carter.
Present.
DeLong.
Present.
De Silva.
Here.
Edgeworth.
Present.
Flanagan.
Here.
Gallant.
Here.
Golding.
Here.
Gurr.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Karras.
Here.
Kasama.
Here.
Wynn.
Here.
Chair Considine.
I am here and welcome to the audience in Carson City, those joining by video conference in Las Vegas, and those listening over the internet. It's good to see a full house today. I would like to begin with some housekeeping measures. First, please check and silence your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table by the door and provide a business card to our committee secretary. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state your name and any affiliation for the record. Turn the microphone off each time you are done speaking. If you are providing handouts, please ensure that hard copies are available for members of the public. Electronic copies should have been submitted to our committee manager by 9 a.m. yesterday for our committee members. We expect courtesy and respect for in all of our interactions during our meeting, even if we disagree with someone else's position. And I encourage committee members to ask questions and engage with the material presented. If you have follow-up questions, please flag them for me so that we can ensure we balance our time effectively. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please do not interpret that as a sign of disrespect or inattention. And with that, we will get started. Today, we will conduct a work session to take action on measures the committee has heard in previous meetings. After the work session, we will hear one bill, Assembly Bill 444, which revises provisions relating to government administration. I will now open the work session. It is not customary for the committee to take testimony or rehear the bills during a work session. However, I may invite a witness to come forward for clarification or questions during our consideration of a measure. We will be hearing 11 bills during the work session today. Senate Bill 96 and Assembly Bills 98, 224, 247, 264, 278, 285, 301, 333, 422, and 427. Please note that we will not be considering AB 392 during the work session today. Instead, we will consider this bill at a later date. With that, let's get started with SB 96. I will turn it over to our policy analyst, Alex Drozdoff.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdoff, Committee Policy Analyst. For the record, as nonpartisan legislative staff, I can neither support nor oppose any measure before the committee. The first bill on work session is Senate Bill 96, which designates January 27th as International Holocaust Remembrance Day in the state of Nevada. The committee heard this measure on April 1st. Senate Bill 96 designates January 27th of each year as International Holocaust Remembrance Day in the state of Nevada and requires the governor to issue an annual proclamation encouraging the observance of this day. Senator Krasner proposed an amendment adding co-sponsors to the bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? I will now entertain a motion to amend and do pass on SB 96. I have the motion made by Assemblymember DeLong and the second by Vice Chair Wynn. Is there any discussion on the matter? Assemblyman Carter?
Thank you, Chair Considine. I just wanted to make a comment about a Nevadan that called in during the hearing on this bill, and that's Brianna Cowan of Douglas County. She spoke on the need to treat everyone as a human and how the Holocaust is a stark reminder of what happens when people are not treated in a similar manner under the law. I agree with all of her points, and for the same reasons listed, I also support SB 96, the intent of this bill, which that learning about one of the worst atrocities humanity has ever committed highlights the need to remember what happens when we fail to treat other humans with the dignity that they deserve. Thank you, Chair.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say nay. Measure passes unanimously, and I will assign the floor statement to Assemblymember Edgeworth. Ms. Drozdoff, please summarize the next bill in the work session.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdoff for the record. The next bill on work session is Assembly Bill 98, which creates a day of observance for labor leader Dolores Huerta. The committee heard this measure on March 31st. Assembly Bill 98 requires the governor to annually proclaim April 10th as Dolores Huerta Day in the state of Nevada. The proclamation must encourage all public schools and educational institutions in the state to recognize and educate students about her life, accomplishments, and contributions to the United States. Assemblymember Moore proposed an amendment to add co-sponsors to the bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? I will now entertain a motion to amend and do pass on AB 98.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Vice Chair Nguyen and a second by Assemblymember Carter. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Please raise your hand if you're nay. For nays, I have Assembly Members Kasama, Gerd, Zalong, and Gallant. Motion carries. Ms. Drozdoff, please summarize the next work session. Oh, I'm sorry, I will assign the floor assignment to Assemblymember Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdoff for the record. The next bill on work session is Assembly Bill 224, which provides for the issuance of bonds to assist certain school districts in financing capital improvements. The committee heard this measure on March 3rd. Assembly Bill 224 requires the State Board of Finance to issue $100 million in general obligation bonds for credit to the Fund to Assist School Districts in Financing Capital Improvements. It also requires the Director of the Office of Finance to use any proceeds of the bonds to make grants from the fund to school districts in a county with a population less than 15,000. Assemblymember Mosca proposed an amendment adding co-sponsors to the bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? I will now entertain a motion to amend and do pass on AB 224.
So moved.
I have the motion made by Vice Chair. Do I have a second? Second from Assemblymember De Silva. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
One nay from Assemblymember Carter. Motion carries, and I will sign the floor statement to Assemblymember Mosca. Ms. Drozdoff, please summarize the next bill.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdoff for the record. The next bill on work session is Assembly Bill 247, which revises provisions relating to persons with disabilities. The committee heard this measure on March 12th. Assembly Bill 247 provides that a reasonable effort to accommodate persons with physical disabilities includes, without limitation, the provision of a registered sign language interpreter and communication access real-time translation at a public meeting. It also requires each public building that holds public meetings, is owned by a public body, and is designed on or after July 1st, 2025, to include any equipment or software necessary for communication access real-time translation. Furthermore, the Council to establish academic standards for public schools must establish standards of content and performance for academic sign language as a foreign or world language. Finally, Nevada's Department of Education must conduct a study during the 2025-2026 interim to determine the need for a school for pupils who are deaf or hard of hearing. Amy Hines Sutherland, Health and Human Services Manager with NACO, proposed an amendment to change the type of interpreter that public meetings must reasonably attempt to provide. Specifically, it removes reference to a person registered to engage in the practice of sign language interpreting and replaces it with a qualified interpreter as defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act, which provides services either in person or through electronic means. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to amend and do pass on AB 247.
So moved.
I have a first from Vice Chair Nguyen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Assemblymember Carter. Is there any discussion on the matter? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. application. Motion carries unanimously, and I will assign the floor statement to Assemblymember Brown May. Ms. Drozdoff, please summarize the next bill on the work session.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdoff for the record. The next bill on work session is Assembly Bill 264, which revises provisions relating to the issuance of professional and occupational licenses. The committee heard this measure on March 5th. Assembly Bill 264 sets procedures by which an applicant for the issuance of a license, certification, registration, permit, or other authorization that grants a person the authority to engage in a profession or occupation in this state that is issued by an officer, agency, board, commission, or political subdivision of this state may obtain judicial review of a decision denying the applicant on the basis of moral character or criminal history. The bill also outlines time periods and procedures for denying an applicant on such a basis, as well as the subsequent petition and hearing process that may be initiated by an applicant. It specifies that in a hearing, the licensing agency has the burden of proof of establishing that issuing a license to the applicant would pose a direct, substantial, and unmitigable risk to public health or safety based on the duties and responsibilities of the profession or occupation. The court must then either affirm the licensing agency's decision or require the agency to issue a license to the applicant following its determination. Tatiana Smith, Policy Counsel, ACLU of Nevada, proposed an amendment that clarifies the type of applicants to whom the bill applies, clarifies the timeline regarding when judicial review would occur, makes changes to the hearing process, including modifying the burden of proof, and specifies that a court cannot uphold a denial based solely on an arrest. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Are there any questions? I will now entertain a motion to amend and do pass on AB 264.
So moved.
I have a motion from Vice Chair Nguyen and a second from Assembly Member Carter. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say yea.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. Nay. Please raise your hands. Just so, okay, so I have a nay from DeLong, Gur, Gallant, Edgeworth, and Kasama. Motion carries. Floor statement will go to Assembly Member Miller. Ms. Drozdoff, please summarize the next bill on the work session.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdoff for the record. The next bill on work session is Assembly Bill 278, which designates the month of July as Muslim American Heritage Month. The committee heard this measure on March 20th. Assembly Bill 278 designates the month of July of each year as Muslim American Heritage Month in the state of Nevada and requires the governor to annually issue a proclamation encouraging its observance. The proclamation must include calling upon the media, state and local officers, private nonprofit groups and foundations, schools, businesses, and other public and private entities to bring attention to the important contributions Muslim Americans have made to Nevada and to the United States. There are no amendments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Are there any questions? I will entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 278.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first from Vice Chair Nguyen and a second from Assembly Member Carter. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Nay. Please raise your hand so I can, so I have Assembly Members DeLong, Gur, Gallant, Edgeworth, and Kasama. Motion carries. I will assign the floor statement to Assembly Member Miller. Ms. Drozdoff, please summarize the next bill on work session.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdoff for the record. The next bill on work session is Assembly Bill 285, which establishes the Nevada State Service Corps within the Department of Administration. The committee heard this measure on March 12th. Assembly Bill 285 establishes the Nevada State Service Corps as a program within the Department of Administration and requires the department to develop and oversee the program to provide for the placement and mentoring of recent NSHE graduates for temporary service in certain positions with the Executive Department of State Government, and consult with NSHE to develop and oversee the program in addition to other duties. It also authorizes the Board of Regents to request the Legislative Commission to appoint a legislator to serve as an advisor to the participants and includes certain provisions concerning classified and temporary service with the Nevada State Service Corps. Assemblymember Mosca proposed an amendment removing certain duties required of the department related to the program. The amendment also requires the Legislative Commission to appoint a legislator to serve as an advisor. Additionally, Assemblymember Mosca proposed an amendment adding co-sponsors to the bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to amend and do pass on Assembly Bill 285.
So moved.
The first from Vice Chair Nguyen. Do I have a
Second.
second? I heard second from Assembly Member Carter. Is there any discussion on the motion? Assembly Member Kasama.
Yes, I like the intent of the bill, and I'll be voting yes on it out of committee. I had a couple of questions. I'll follow up later. Thank you.
Any other questions? No other discussion on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Please raise the hands. So I have Assembly Members DeLong, Gur, Gallant, and Kasama.
No, just go.
Oh, sorry, I thought I saw you raise your hand. So I have, for the nays, I have DeLong, Gur, and Gallant. Okay, motion carries, and I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Mosca. Ms. Drozdov, please summarize the next bill on work session.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdov for the record. The next bill on work session is Assembly Bill 301, which revises provisions relating to general improvement districts. The committee heard this measure on March 7th. Assembly Bill 301 authorizes each member of a board of certain general improvement districts to receive as compensation not more than $14,500 per year if the district provides service to at least 5,000 connections. Assemblymember Golding proposed an amendment removing the limitations based on the number of service connections and authorizing GID trustee compensation in the unique situation of the Tahoe Reno Industrial GID. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Are there any questions? I will now entertain a motion to amend and do pass on AB 301.
So moved.
So I have a motion from Vice Chair Nguyen and a second from Assemblymember Hunt. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Right. Motion carries unanimously, and I will assign the floor statement to Assemblymember Goulding. Ms. Drozdov, please summarize the next bill.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdov for the record. The next bill in work session is Assembly Bill 333, which revises provisions relating to governmental administration. The committee heard this measure on March 14th. Assembly Bill 333 terminates the lease to Washoe County for certain real property owned by the state, repeals related chapters of the statutes of Nevada, and sets forth a legislative declaration on the repeal. It further requires the administrator of the Division of State Lands to enter into an agreement to lease the real property in use as a county public building complex to Washoe County, and sets forth requirements for the county as part of the agreement. Additionally, following the lease termination, the bill provides the State Department of Agriculture is responsible for the operation and maintenance of the portion of real property not transferred to Washoe County, which shall be referred to as the Nevada State Fairgrounds, and it sets forth related requirements for the department. Finally, it creates the account for the maintenance and operation of the Nevada State Fairgrounds in the State General Fund, with the money in the account to be used to develop, maintain, operate, and promote the use of the fairgrounds and any of its facilities. Assemblymember Gray proposed an amendment changing the language in subsection 2B of section 5 from livestock to agriculture, adding provisions authorizing the Department of Agriculture Director to enter into agreements to rent or lease certain concessions, and adding the State Land Registrar shall execute a new lease for no consideration after Washoe County completes certain requirements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass on
moved.
Assembly Bill 333. I heard the first motion from Assemblymember DeLong and a second from Vice Chair. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously, and I will sign the floor statement to Assemblymember Gray. Ms. Drozdov, please summarize the next bill in work session.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdov for the record. The next bill on work session is Assembly Bill 422, which revises provisions relating to the Civil Air Patrol. The committee heard this measure on March 25th. Assembly Bill 422 provides that an employee who is a volunteer member of the Nevada wing of the Civil Air Patrol is entitled to a leave of absence from his or her employment without loss of position, seniority, accrued leave, or benefits on days during which the employee is engaged in training for emergency missions with the Civil Air Patrol, not to exceed 10 workdays during each federal fiscal year, and responding to an emergency mission with the Civil Air Patrol, not to exceed 30 workdays each federal fiscal year. The bill also outlines related provisions concerning employer prohibitions on such a leave of absence, as well as requirements an employee requesting such a leave must meet. Finally, it authorizes an employee to bring civil action in response to violations of these provisions. Assemblymember Yeager proposed an amendment adding disaster relief activities to subsection 3 of section 2 of the bill, and the amendment also adds a co-sponsor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? I will now entertain a motion to amend and do pass on Assembly Bill 422. I heard the motion from Vice Chair Nguyen and a second from Assemblymember Gur. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion passes unanimously, and I will assign the floor statement to Assemblyman Carter. Ms. Drozdoff, please summarize the next bill.
Thank you, Chair. Alex Drozdoff for the record. The last bill on work session is Assembly Bill 427, which revises provisions relating to public financial administration. The committee heard this measure on March 25th. Assembly Bill 427 eliminates the restriction that limits a corporation for public benefit from investing in businesses other than those which engage primarily in certain industries, instead requiring that the businesses be engaged in an industry that is consistent with the state plan for economic development. The bill also outlines additional provisions concerning eligible businesses, including the stage of investment they are seeking. Additionally, it authorizes a corporation for public benefit to invest directly in eligible businesses, authorizes certain investments through the use or assistance of venture capital investment firms, and outlines certain requirements for private equity money and venture capital investments. Finally, AB 427 replaces the NSHE Chancellor with the Executive Director of the Office of Economic Development within the Office of the Governor on the Board of Directors of the Corporation of Public Benefit. It also changes the experience required for the 5 appointed members from at least 10 years of experience in certain fields to demonstrated experience in those fields. Assemblymember Yeager proposed an amendment adding language specifying that GOED will only provide information on active and/or funded opportunities, and the amendment also adds a co-sponsor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? I will now entertain a motion to amend and do pass on AB 427. I heard the first motion from Assemblymember DeLong and the second from Vice Chair Nguyen. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember De Silva. And with that, we will close the work session. Thank you. And I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 444, which revises provisions relating to governmental administration. To present this measure, we have Assemblymember Hafen, and please go ahead when you are ready.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. I had originally prepared a 171 PowerPoint presentation, but the Chair advised me to be brief this morning, so I have withdrawn that. So if you read that last night, I apologize, but I have withdrawn the PowerPoint. So I thank you, Chair, again, and members of the committee. For the record, Gregory Hafen, representing Assembly District 36, which is parts of Clark, Lincoln, and Nye. Here to present Assembly Bill 444, which revises provisions related to government administration. So, and I do want to acknowledge Senator Neal. She's not here to present with us today. She wanted to be here, and she also would like to be added as a co-sponsor. She originally had brought Senate Bill 261 last legislative session. And what this bill is going to do when I get into the details is really kind of expand what her bill did last session and really bring in state agencies when you look at the proposed amendment that is up on Nellis right now. So ultimately, this bill is to increase transparency and consistency in the decisions made by our government bodies, particularly those that impact small businesses. Assembly Bill 444 builds on the existing requirements to this effect in order to apply those requirements more concisely across the board. Quick background, NAC establishes procedural requirements for executive department agencies, officers, and employees to adopt administrative regulations with some exceptions. Under the Act, these parties are required to take certain actions to determine a proposed regulation impact on for-profit businesses that employ less than 150 employees before adopting a regulation that is likely to impose a direct and significant economic burden or other operational impact on such business. The Act further requires the state agencies, officer, or employee to prepare a small business impact statement. Furthermore, existing law establishes procedural requirement for adopting certain rules and actions that impose, increase, or change the basis for calculating a fee paid for by a for-profit business. And one of the really important things is that they have to notify the Chamber of Commerce and trade associations of the proposed rules, and to include information about these notifications, as well as the number of businesses likely to be affected by the rule.
You are in the meeting now.
And it appears we may have had Senator Neal able to join us. Maybe not. And I'll just continue. With Assembly Bill 444, I intend to build on these requirements so that other entities whose rules and decisions may impact small businesses must abide by the same requirements. With your permission, I will go through the sections of the bill, and I do want to touch on the amendment that is on Nellis real quick. Really what that amendment is trying to accomplish is expand the notification to include the chambers of commerce and the trade associations that are being affected, and really also then expanding into the state agencies. So right now, it's the local governments that have these requirements. We want to expand it to include the state agencies now, because it has been very beneficial to the chambers, the trade associations, and the small business owners and businesses. So that's what's up on Nellis. If you have questions, we can circle back to that. I'll walk through the bill a little bit because it is short. Section 1 imposes, I just said that. So Section 2, the state specifies that the state agency, officer, or employee must include similar information in the small business impact. Section 3 eliminates the exemption that provides a local government is not required to comply with the procedures for adoption in the rules in taking action, impose increasing changes and basis for the calculations of sales and use tax, thus requiring local governments to comply with these procedures when it comes to the sales and use tax. It also provides clarity on what a rule is for the purposes of procedural requirements concerning adopting a rule. And you can kind of read what the current statute is there. And then I did want to touch on a lot of the local agencies, NACO, Urban Consortium, been working with them on another amendment that I think that we've come to an agreement on this morning. And so I just want to touch on that in Section 3. We're going to change, where we're proposing to change the or to an and, we're going to flip that back. We're no longer going to be making that change. And then we're going to add subsection C, which would be to include in the definition of rule, impact fees imposed pursuant to chapters 278B of NRS. Basically what we're doing is we're moving subsection 2A sub 2, where it says impact fees are not part of the rule. We're moving that up, so it is part of the rule. So when a impact fee is going to be increased or changed, they have to do a business impact statement on a business impact fee. seems kind of common sense to me, but we've had lots of conversation. I want to thank all the local agencies and counties for helping work on that. And then I'll move on to section 4. In working with the local agencies, we're going to remove the section 4 that is in the current bill, and it's in the addition in its entirety, and we're going to add a section, we're just gonna add, under these provisions, the voided rule would be unenforceable and would require the governing body of a local government to provide for the readoption of said rule and would revert to existing rules of the governing body of the local government. Basically, what we're saying is, if the local government does not comply and follow these rules by implementing the impact statement, rather than the Attorney General taking litigation against them for this, we're saying the rule is gonna be null and void. They have to go back and redo the process. Basically, what we're saying is it would become an open meeting law violation, and they have to just redo it. I am agreeing to that amendment that was proposed by NACO late last night, and so wanted to bring that to your attention. And then finally, section 5 requires copies of certain notices for public hearings on impact fees be provided to the chambers of commerce and the trade associations whose members are likely to be affected by the proposed impact fees. With that, Madam Chair, I know I took longer than I said I would. I apologize, but I'm here for any questions that you or the members have today.
Thank you for the presentation. I just have a quick question because I'm now unsure how many amendments we physically have or if there's additional amendments coming. If you could clarify, thank you.
Absolutely, Chair. I believe that you should only have one amendment in front of you from me. My name is Gregory Hafen for the second. Thank you for the sign. So you should have only the one amendment from me on my letterhead that I have presented. And then there is another amendment that I will be drafting up to provide to you for work session, hopefully that we can get to a work session, not today. And so that everything that I've read into the record today will be added to that. So there was a second amendment that will be forthcoming.
Thank you. And I just have a question, and it's probably more of a clarifying question, but with these additions, and I know you just mentioned open meeting law, which made me think of that. Is this extending a time frame that already exists? Will any of this extend that time frame?
No, the intention, and I'm sure NACO could probably testify to this a little bit better than me, is to, Gregory Hafen, the second for the record, apologize. The intention is to not do that, right? We want to stick with the same parameters that are already in existing law, and that's why we were deleting the additions to section 4, because we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We already had a process in place. When they brought that to my attention, I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. We should just follow the current procedures that are in place. It accomplishes the same goal.
Thank you. Committee members, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. We will move on to testimony. Testimony can be provided here in person in Carson City, via video conference in Las Vegas, or over the phone, and instructions on providing testimony can be found on the agenda. Just as a reminder, support testimony means that you approve of the measure as written or as written along with any proposed amendments that have been approved by the sponsor. Opposition means that you do not approve of the measure as written, including if you wish to propose amendments that have not been approved by the sponsor. And neutral testimony means you are offering insight on the measure but expressing no position. And we will begin with testimony in support here in Carson City. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Paul Moratkin with the Vegas Chamber. First, we'd like to thank Assemblyman Hafen for bringing the bill forward and in today's presentation on AB 444. The Chamber has been working on strengthening the business impact statement process since 2013, when initial legislation to codify the process for state and local government agencies were brought into effect by Senator Dean Neal. AB 444 continues its efforts by strengthening the BIS process with Chambers of Commerce trade associations at the state level with the proposed amendment that Assemblymember Hafen discussed. This bill will standardize how business groups are notified about the process. It also clarifies that state entities must comply with the business impact statement process. There have been discussions in the last several years about which entities are to be included in the process, and we believe that the original intent was to include them in that broad scope of definition in 2013. At the Vegas Chamber, we have over 70 different industries within our membership, and we are typically the primary point of contact to let them know when changes are happening with proposed state regulatory changes and ordinances. Many of our small business members rely on us to notify them of the proposed ordinance changes, as they do not have lobbyists or dedicated staff to track these items for them. However, the notification process from state agencies and boards can be challenging at times because of different methods of communication. Some are by email, some are by written notice, or some do not send out any notice. That is why we believe the amendment proposed by Assemblymember Hafen is important today. And also the consistency and transparency are important for businesses to understand what's happening on issues that impact them. We do want to acknowledge that certain state agencies do a good job currently in the business impact statement process, specifically the Department of Taxation. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for your time today.
Was Rizard, W-I-Z-R-O-U-Z-A-R-D, Deputy State Director with Americans for Prosperity. And on behalf of our numerous activists who, some are small business owners, we support AB 444, and we thank the bill sponsor, Minority Leader Hafen II, for bringing this bill forward. It's really simple. In a thriving economy, you got to have a partnership where businesses are able to be notified about these business impact fees, and to include a business statement creates a formal process to ensure that businesses can forecast these type of expenses, to ensure that they're able to have the resources necessary to operate. So we greatly appreciate, in the spirit of transparency, that this bill is really has been worked on by many stakeholders, and we appreciate the leadership by Minority Leader Greg Hafen II for doing so, and so we urge you to support AB 444. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Andy McKay, I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Franchised Auto Dealers Association. I don't obviously appear in front of this committee often, but this is the second time I have done it this session so far, and in both of them, they're good bills that promote transparency and openness in government. The first being AB 125, which was sponsored by Assemblymember Flanagan and passed by this committee. Obviously, as previously mentioned, this matter expands on the bill sponsored by Senator Neal last session in 2023 that we enthusiastically went to the table and supported. Not to belabor the issue, but I'm coming at this from two different points, not only as somebody that represents our dealer members across the state, but also as a former regulator. When I was chairman of the Nevada Transportation Authority for several years, the best type of rulemaking that you can get is when you have diverse, widespread involvement from the entities that you're ultimately regulating, or that your rules that you're going to ultimately promulgate, those that they're going to impact, that they have a say in it and that you hear from them. And this does nothing but improve that process. I want to thank Assemblymember Hafen for sponsoring this bill, and we respectfully request the committee's support of the measure. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good morning. Oh, excuse me. Good morning, Chair and members of committee. My name is Joanna Tiveros, Y-O-A-N-A-O-N-T-I-V-E-R-O-S. I'm with Career Nevada on behalf of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. We appreciate the sponsor for bringing this bill forward, and we would like to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I'm here on behalf of the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce and also on behalf of the Silver State Chamber of Commerce. The Silver State Chamber is a coalition of the smaller chambers throughout our state, and it's not just municipalities, but it's other groups that align with and represent their different constituencies. This bill is fantastic from a perspective of that our chambers of commerce are the conduits for all of our members, not just our members, but businesses that aren't members of chambers of commerce. The transparency afforded in this bill to inform the chambers of what is occurring in these places is really, really important, because we can then take that information, spread it out, make sure that if there is going to be an impact, positive or negative, that the businesses know that it's coming. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair Considine and committee members. Misty Grimmer, Grimmer, representing the Nevada Resort Association. And I would echo the comments of support from the previous speakers, and definitely express our appreciation to the legislature when you guys pass bills that increase transparency to the business community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Joe Hill, Policy Analyst for the Retail Association of Nevada. We appreciate the minority leader's efforts in helping Nevada's small businesses remain informed about government changes that have real practical impact on their ability to keep their doors open. We support the bill and urge its passage. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Considine and committee members. For the record, my name is Matthew Sauls, last name spelled S-A-U-L-S. I'm the policy analyst for the Nevada Trucking Association, voicing our support for AB 444 alongside trade associations. We want to thank Assemblymember Hafen for bringing the bill forth. We appreciate the increased transparency and notification for smaller makers and movers within the state. It's always appreciated, decreasing some of the many challenges that these businesses face. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in Carson City wishing to provide support testimony on AB 444? Seeing no one else, we'll go to Las Vegas. I'm not seeing anyone in Las Vegas, so AVH, we will move on to you. Is there anyone on the phone lines in support of AB 444?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 444, please press *9 to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. My name is Eric Cardona, E-R-I-C-C-A-R-D-O-N-A, representing the Henderson Chamber of Commerce and our members over 2,000 members, most of which are small businesses here in support of AB 444. By formalizing the consideration of small business impacts early in the regulatory process through notifying small business owners and representative organizations, such as the Henderson Chamber of Commerce, this legislation can help prevent unintended negative consequences that regulations may have that would foster a more collaborative relationship between government and the business community. For these reasons, the Henderson Chamber of Commerce supports AB 444, and we look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Chair, we have no additional callers in support at this time.
Thank you. We will now move on to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition to AB 444? Seeing no one and still seeing no one in Las Vegas, AVH, is there anyone on the phone lines in opposition of AB 444?
Chair, the public line is open and working. We have no callers for opposition at this time.
Thank you. We will move on to testimony in neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City to testify in neutral? Please go ahead when you are ready.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, my name is Vincent Guthrow. My last name is spelled G-U-T-H-R-E-A-U. I represent the Nevada Association of Counties, or NACO. Our members are all 17 of Nevada's counties. Just want to go on the record and first thank the sponsor. Our members do believe in transparency, and we believe this keeps the integrity of the business impact statement process, and we thank him for presenting the amended version, and he worked with us extensively to get this bill to a better place. So I just wanted to put that on the record for the committee so they know. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Isaac Hardy, representing the Urban Consortium, which is made up of Reno, Sparks, Henderson, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas. Want to echo NACO's comments, and we do appreciate the bill sponsor for working with us and the proposed amendment, which brings us into neutral. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral on the bill? Seeing no one and still seeing no one in Las Vegas, AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in neutral on AB 444?
The public line is open and working. We have no callers for neutral at this time.
Thank you. If the presenter would like to make any final remarks, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to say thank you to the committee today. I know a number of you were here very late last night in other committees, and so I really appreciate the time this morning and wanted to say thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 444, which brings us to public comment. Public comment is not an opportunity to rehear testimony on a bill, and we ask that you please keep your public comment to topics within the jurisdiction of this committee. As a reminder, members of the public can provide public comment in person or telephonically and may submit public comment up to 24 hours after the meeting. Instructions to provide public comment can be found on the agenda, and to provide public comment telephonically today, please dial 888-475-4499. When prompted to provide the meeting ID, enter 895-7555-6545, and then press pound when prompted for a participant ID. Each person will have up to 2 minutes to provide testimony. Please remember to clearly state your name for the record. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to provide public comment today? Seeing no one and seeing no one in Las Vegas, AVH, is there anyone on the phone lines for public comment today?
The public line is open and working. We have no callers for public comment at this time.
Thank you. We will not be meeting this Friday or next Monday, so our next meeting will be on Tuesday, April 8th at 9 a.m. And this concludes our meeting today. The meeting is adjourned.